Rome calling. Rome calling. This is the Gentleman Ultra. This is the Gentleman Ultra.
Calcio presenta Serie A Team.
Welcome back to the Gentleman Ultra Podcast, and I'm your host, Richard Hall. Sit down by the fire and prepare for another story from one of our many we have on our websites. This production is brought to you by Federico Farcomeni. Gentleman Ultra, featured on the Guardian Sports Network. Great forgotten goals from the Serie A golden days in the 2000s. It was a glorious time for Italian football. Some of the goals were spectacular, from overhead kicks to Olympicos. The 2000s were a dramatic decade for Italian football. Of course, it had scandals. Had a World Cup win, bankruptcies galore, and it all received global attention. But of course, as we said, time for great golazzos. So we thought we'd bring you a few here that you may have forgotten about. Dino Baggio, Lazio versus Milan in 2000. Dino Baggio was usually good for one long-range rocket every season during his career at Inter, Juventus, Parma, and of course Lazio. He scored this goal at the start of the 2000 and 2001 season, a month after he left Parma to join reigning champions Lazio, who needed cover in midfield as they competed on three fronts under Sven-Göran Eriksson. There were only 3 minutes on the clock against Milan, and Baggio picked up the ball from Diego Simeone on the left. He pushed it forward, but decided he didn't want to pass it. The ball cannoned off his left foot and violently flew past Cristiano Lucarelli at such a frightening speed from all of 25 yards out.
2 minuti e mezzo di gioco, la palla è per Dino Baggio, 2 passi, sinistro fiondato, violentissimo e Lazio in vantaggio. Non sono ancora trascorsi 3 minuti di gioco.
Hidetoshi Nakata, Juventus 2, Roma 2, in 2001. Roma were 2-0 down against Juventus and conceded 2 goals in the first 6 minutes. Roma coach Fabio Capello summoned Hidetoshi, well, you can tell me, Nakata or Nakata? The debate is still out. From the dugout to replace Francesco Totti, who else? But the iconic Japanese player had trouble finding minutes at Roma. But this night he was about to make his mark. Nakata, wearing the number 8 shirt, won the ball back in midfield. He burst forward and unleashed a stunning long-range strike to put Roma back in the game. His contribution to the comeback did not end with his goal. In the 91st minute, his powerful shot could only be palmed into the path of Vincenzo Montella, who tapped in a dramatic equaliser.
Poi Nakata senza fallo, Tacchinardi si è solo fermato, Nakata, destro, Ide! Nakata! 2-1, 34 minuti, siamo in zona derby.
Eriberto, Verona versus Chievo, 2001. A long lost derby. This match between local rivals Verona and Chievo, known as Derby della Scala, was their first meeting in the top flight. Verona won the match 3-2, but the goal of the night, maybe even of the season, was scored by a Chievo player. In the 32nd minute, Eugenio Carini speared a diagonal 40-metre pass over the Verona defence, and Eriberto, as he was known at the time, wedged his right boot under the ball with just enough lift and dip to loop a first-time volley over the goalkeeper and into the far corner. Though remembered mostly for his deceptive behaviour off the pitch, I laugh because we can talk about that another time. He clearly possessed the ability to deceive while on it. Chievo fans will forever remember Eriberto as a player who scored their first goal in the top flight against their biggest rivals.
La verticalizzazione a cercare Eriberto, secondo palo, al volo, ed è rete, Eriberto, il Chievo in vantaggio, sorpresi tutti, anche Ferron, forse cercava il cross, ha trovato un pallonetto incredibile, al 33esimo, il Chievo in vantaggio.
Straordinario il lancio dalla sinistra per Eriberto.
Francesco Flachi, Perugia versus Sampdoria in 2003. Back in the top flight after 4 years of languishing in the second tier, Sampdoria took the lead at Perugia as Francesco Flachi scored a sensational overhead kick with his right boot from Fabio Bazzani's flick-on. With his team trailing 3-2 in the last minute, the former Fiorentina forward went one bitter with a glorious leveller. Sam fullback Stefano Battarini sent in a curling cross and Flachi connected with a flying acrobatic left foot volley into the bottom corner. A marvellous union of timing and technique, he threw off his shirt and scaled the high barricades to celebrate with the ecstatic travelling Sampdoria fans.
Il gol di Flachi al 44esimo, grandissimo Francesco Flachi, rete, pareggio al 44esimo.
Mark Bresciano, Regina vs Parma in 2004. Mark Bresciano's goals during his 12 years in Italy make a convincing case that the Parmigiano cheese-loving midfielder is Australia's greatest footballing export. He scored a number of spectacular strikes during the 2003-2004 season, but this one was the pick of the bunch. Bresciano scored direct from a corner, leaving Regina goalkeeper Emanuele Ballardi standing and watching like a statue, reminiscent of the Australians' iconic celebration.
La partenza bruciante degli uomini di Camolese 3 volte alla conclusione nei primi 3 minuti viene vanificata al nono dalla parabola disegnata da Bresciano su calcio d'angolo. Forse il vento danneggia Belardi, sicuramente mal piazzato. Sta di fatto che il pallone si infila beffardamente sul palo più lontano.
Gianfranco Zola, Cagliari vs Juventus in 2005. Gianfranco Zola was known for his free kicks, chips, and back heels, his flicks, everything else. But he also knew how to head the ball. Now, Zola was often the shortest player on the pitch, but throughout his 20-year career he popped up unmarked in the box time and time again, from games in Serie C to the Cup Winners' Cup semi-final. And at the age of 38, after inspiring Cagliari to promotion from Serie B, the pint-sized forward scored his masterpiece against Juventus. His teammate Massimo Berembrea prepared to cross the ball from the right. Zola curled his run like an Olympic high jumper, leaping above Lilian Thuram of all people and Jonathan Zebina to power home a last-minute equaliser against the gargantuan Gigi Buffon.
Possibilità ancora per il Cagliari, Brambilla attende poi il suggerimento, Zola di testa, Gianfranco Zola di testa, 1-1.
Cristiano Lucarelli, Livorno vs Fiorentina, 2006. Cristiano Lucarelli is probably better remembered for his political views than his footballing skills, but it's easy to forget that this self-proclaimed communist scored 112 goals, let me repeat this, 112 goals in 172 games for Livorno, and finished as top scorer in the 2004-2005 season. His best goal, however, came the following season. Fiorentina came to town to contest a dramatic Derby Medici, as some know it, and the magic arrived in 76 minutes into Livorno's 2-0 win. Giuseppe Colucci chipped in across to the far post and Lucarelli fired in a low volley into the Fiorentina net. It was a stunning goal, and the late winter Tuscan sunshine illuminated Lucarelli's glowing talent.
Colucci va a cercare il movimento di Lucarelli, attenzione Lucarelli, destro! 2-0 Livorno, un gol straordinario!
Cristiano Riganò, Messina versus Regina in 2006. Messina would finish 18th in 2005 to 2006. They lost to local rivals Regina along the way. They would have been relegated in any other campaign, but when Juventus were demoted after Calciopoli scandal, the Sicilian side were given a reprieve. They stayed up and prepared to face their rivals again at the start of the campaign. The derby came around in September, and this was to be Cristiano Riganò's day. He opened us scoring, but that was just a warm-up act. After some good work from Ivaj Ilyevjev, on the left, Riganò received the ball with his back to goal. He quickly twisted and weaved his way between two defenders and delicately lifted the ball over the onrushing goalkeeper into the top right-hand corner of the net.
Con la collaborazione di Iliev, entrato al posto di uno spento di Napoli, sta per compiere la seconda magia della serata. È il 39esimo e Riganò segna un gol splendido, un pallonetto che il 32enne attaccante di Lipari si cerca saltando due avversari e trova battendo Bellizzoli nell'esultanza della panchina di Bruno Giordano.
Giuseppe Mascara, Inter versus Catania. Giuseppe Mascara scored 6 goals in his first season as a top-flight player. One of them was an unforgettable piece of individual brilliance, and it came against Inter at San Siro. They were the reigning champions. He received the ball from a throw-in on the left-hand side, controlled it with his instep before flicking the ball up and unleashing a volley that dipped and swerved past a flailing Julio Cesar in the Inter goal.
Occhio a Mascara, rete! Gol incredibile! Mascara sognava il gol a San Siro, lui interista di fede, il gol che arriva al 16esimo.
He scored another iconic goal in Serie A few years later, a stunning volley from the halfway line in a memorable 4-0 win over Sicilian rivals Palermo, but that also lives in the hearts of the Italian football enthusiasts. But this one against Inter was just that little bit maybe more special. Juan Vargas, Atalanta versus Fiorentina 2009. Now, they're attacking fullbacks, there certainly are. There are goal-scoring defenders. And then there's Juan Manuel Vargas, el loco, the crazy one. He drove opposition goalkeepers daft with his long-range ballistic skills. His left foot was a death sentence for dreams of a clean sheet if you let him wind it up and unleash it. Clearly that message had not reached Atalanta when they visited Florence in December 2009. His shot was pure Peruvian perfection, snaking its way through the air like a sidewinder on its path of destruction. This was vicious, venomous Vargas at its finest, with a mad marvel of a goal.
Avanza Vargas, occhio al suo sinistro, la prova! Juan Manuel Vargas, un gol splendido, Fiorentina in vantaggio. Un tiro.
This article was from the Gentleman Ultra, also featured on the Guardian Sports. You can find them on X and all the social media channels. And of course, just type in the Gentleman Ultra on your Google search, easy for me to say, and you can find us there. I would like to put some thanks into people again for this article. Again, let me thank Federico Farcomeni for some of the best editing skills we possibly could have asked for to putting these all together, and he's really appreciated. I'd like to thank Giancarlo Rinaldi, a great writer for Fiorentina, of Fiorentina, and anything that's Tuscan, Jake Smalley, fellow interperson, myself, Richard Hall, Henry Bell of Napoli. So many more people put these things together, and we're proud of all our writers. Andy Wallace, thank you as well. Frank Risotto in Australia, well done. Mark Gordon, our chief editor. Stephen Karcevic, thank you. David Farini, Michele Tosani. so many people in our one and only Emmett Gates. Thank you so much for putting this together. The great forgotten goals from Serie A golden days in the 2000. So from us now, that's ciao for now. Grazie. See you next time.